Canada, right? I mean,
What?
Canada has some pretty insane cases that are going on right now about gender transition from really young kids. And there's all this pushback with parents, and there's all this because the parents are not being told that their children want to transition. So there's this guy that was talking about these issues of parents' rights in Canada, and he specifically said that parents don't have rights in Canada, that they have, I feel like he said they have obligations. Is that the term he used? But he said under Canadian law, parents don't have rights. Like, what the fuck are you saying? Let me make sure that's exactly what he said before I get sued. But when I saw it, I was like, this is such a crazy thing to say. And if that's the way their law is structured, fix that. Like, who are other people to tell you how to parent your child? And who are these people? Have they been vetted? Are they really good at parenting? They're supposed to be teachers. They're not supposed to be parents.
Here's my problem with that. If you look at this right now, and I understand, I don't know if you know, but I'm starting a whole new network called Merritt Street Media.
No, I didn't know.
Yeah, and we launch at the 1st of April. We were going to launch at the end of February, but we've delayed it a month in order to pick up some more massive distribution. And I have committed myself to owning the debate lane in America. I'm willing to let all sides come and say what they want to say, but they got to be willing to answer hard questions. And I've had some of these folks, I've already shot about 30 shows on Dr. Phil Primetime. We're going to have 4 hours of news and a whole lot of other programming, but it's all about, let's be commonsensical. Let's look at the facts. Let's look at science. Let's not look at what you want to be the truth. Let's look at what is the facts. Let's look at what is science. And we've got these people that, it's interesting, they choose words like gender-affirming care. That's interesting that they call it that, but really what they're talking about is hormonal therapy or sex reassignment surgery on children. And in fairness, the American Medical Association, the American Academy of Pediatrics, the American Endocrine Society, or whatever the exact name of that is, all of the major medical associations have signed off on this, Joe. They've signed off on it. And I have never seen those organizations sign off on anything with less information as to whether or not it does long-term harm of anything in my life. And when I ask about that, when I bring that up, then they immediately label you as transphobic. And I thought that the deal was first do no harm. And all of the European countries, Sweden, Norway, they've all stopped doing it because they say, we cannot say in good conscience that this does no harm, because it does harm. If you look at the long-term consequences, if someone changes their mind at 10, 11, 12, 13 years old, they can't decide which pajamas they want to wear at night. And their reason for doing it is it stops this drive for suicide, that there's a suicide epidemic. It doesn't fix that. It doesn't fix all the comorbid issues that come along with feeling like they're in the wrong body. But yet they're pushing this, and we're going to do some shows that are already taped that are revealing what the real results of this are. And I think people are going to be shocked that these medical organizations have signed off on this. I think they've just given in to the pressure.
Yeah, I just don't understand where the pressure is coming from. Another phrase they're using now is life-saving gender-affirming care. They like to smash them all together like that.
Well, I don't think
it's
that...
gaslighting.
I just don't think that there's evidence to suggest that's true. Is this
Here
the guy
is.
you're talking
Yeah.
about?
He said there's no such thing as parental rights in Canada. Children have rights in Canada, and And those kinds of policies restrict the rights children have. This is a wild thing, man. It's I've never seen anything like it.
But America's not far behind that, because
No.
I've talked to a lot of teachers, and they're telling me that they have a duty to the children, that if the child is not ready to talk to their parents about this, that it's okay for them to keep a secret from the child. Now, let me tell you what my problems with this are and see what you think. First off, if this is either a psychological phenomenon or a medical phenomenon, and the teachers are not trained in either psychology or medicine, they're not any more trained to deal with that than they are to take out the kid's spleen in the homeroom. So if that's true, if it's a psychological thing, if it's gender dysphoria, or it's a medical issue, then you need someone trained in child psychology, psychiatry, or medicine. And the teacher's not trained in any of those three things. Like I say, they're not any more trained in that than they are to take out the child's spleen. So how are they qualified to deal with that? Secondly, it's teaching the child to keep a secret from their parents. It's teaching deception and interfering between the child's relationship with their parent. Now, their issue with their justification for that is, well, if the child goes home and announces this, or if we tell it to the parent, then the child could get abused, the child could get judged, the child could get kicked to the curb. But they have to admit statistically that is very rare. And if that's the case, that's what we have Department of Child and Family Services for. That's what we have Child Protective Services for. If that's the case, then you call in for some intervention if the child is being abused at home for whatever reason. Then you get intervention in that way. But you don't come between the child and their parent. The parent has the right to know what's going on.
Without a doubt. And also, these people that are teaching these kids, do we even know them? You don't know them. I mean, how much do you know about them before they start teaching your kids?
Well, that's
it could
the thing.
be insane. It's not like the threshold for teachers is so high that only the elite of the elite cross it. You see a lot of these weird people teaching classes, and you don't necessarily want them giving advice to children about decisions for the rest of their life. And here's an important point that people need to really take into consideration. There's a reason why they have little kids become suicide bombers. Because you can talk kids into almost anything. You talk them into